Hello, everyone. Welcome to another great webinar from cpaacademy.org. My name is Vaughn Smith. I will be your moderator for today's webinar on QuickBooks Enterprise Advanced Reporting Part 1. Think big about the data you need. We are so glad you guys have taken time out of your busy day to spend the next hour with us. We have some great information from a wonderful presenter. We really appreciate y'all being here with us today, and I want to make sure that things are working on all of our ends. So I want to make sure that you can hear me. You can see the title slide of the presentation. I'd like for you to let me know by going over to the questions panel and say hello. Tell me where you're tuning in from as well, so I know that we are doing okay here in GoToWebinar. That questions panel is over on the right-hand side, so if you click on that, expand that out, you'll be able to type that in. All right, looks like we've got some people turning in from London, Ontario, Canada. All right, we've got Chicago, we've got Bradenton, Florida. Nice, right down the road from me. I'm in Gainesville. So we've got Missouri, we've got Westchester, Pennsylvania, Denver, Colorado, Houston, Texas, Richmond, Virginia. All right, looks like we're tuning in from all over. So thank you guys so much for letting me know things are working okay. And if at any time they're not working at all, or you have any technical issues, please go ahead and let me know here in this questions panel. I'll do my best to answer you as quickly as possible. There are quite a few of you in here today, so it might take me just a moment to get around to you, but I will address you as quickly as possible. If you have questions for our presenter, we welcome and encourage that, so go ahead and put them right here in this questions panel at any time. If we don't have time to answer all your questions during this session, we send over a full report to our presenter afterwards so she can see any items that may have been missed. You have a handout. I believe you actually have 2 handouts in the handouts panel for you to download and follow along with. They are also in your CPA Academy account. Your account is also where you will find a recording of this session and your issued CPE credit within about 24 hours. Speaking of CPE, this qualifies for 1 CPE credit. You need to remain logged in for at least 15 minutes. Answer our polls that will pop up throughout this presentation. You need to make sure you answer in the poll box, hit that submit button so it registers for your credit. I think I have covered everything I need to, so I'm going to step away, bring up Marjorie to the floor. It's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you to CPA Academy for hosting this for us once again. We love partnering with you all to go through some of the content that we create over here at Fourlane. So this is a QuickBooks Enterprise Advanced Reporting Part 1 webinar. I'm going to do a second follow-up one to this around commissions reporting using advanced reporting December 30th as well. My goal for you today is to get your mind to start dreaming up what's possible, right? Think about the data you need. A lot of times we limit ourselves to what we know or what we've seen before, but can this be done? You know, asking ourselves, can this be done? Is this something that we can get to? Is this data we can get to, a look we can get to? So as we go through today, I would love it if you guys have any ideas. I'm such an idea person. So if you have any, can this be done, or I've seen this done, or anything like that, make sure to share them in the chat or in the questions area as well. Okay, so I'm Marjorie Adams. I own and operate the consulting firm Fourlane. I'm personally located outside of Austin, Texas. I saw a couple Austinites in the chat there. However, our firm is 100% remote. We have now over 60 employees across, I think, 15 states now. We just opened up in 2 more states. My personal passion is to educate and empower as many people and businesses as I can. I work hard at my core to do it better. That's what we have as a core value over here. By continuing to learn, so that we may provide elevated business process and strategy to our clients. There are a lot of terms thrown around in our industry currently, so I don't always know what to call our firm. We're a change management firm, managed consulting firm, we hear that quite a bit, workflow consulting, process consulting, outsourced accounting, conversion and implementation. Hopefully some of these slides will help explain it a little bit better. So here at Fourlane, the things that make us unique. We are the #1 Intuit solution provider. We just got that award again in the last month. How we've maintained that over the years is that we continue to be creative, right? We work with CPA partners, IT partners, with their clients as they purchase QuickBooks, and what differentiates them purchasing through us versus purchasing through Intuit directly are things like what we're going to be talking about today. So we have videos that we provide to clients that are kind of in an older version of QuickBooks, but the concepts are still the same and really help people to get a grasp of what it means to be in QuickBooks. And then now also, when people purchase enterprise through us or renew their enterprise software through us, we also give them a free QuickBooks Advanced Reporting template, one of the ones that we're going to be looking at later in this webinar today. Secondly, so there aren't a lot of people out there who can talk QuickBooks and ERP. We also represent an ERP product called Acumatica, and we can demo both to clients. QuickBooks is our core. It will always be our core. QuickBooks Enterprise is my heart, I know. But we can talk to the ERP space as well and also convert clients out of QuickBooks into ERP. So there's very few people who have really bridged that gap. Third, we're experts in accounting and systems. We can tell you how to set up the systems, the setup of the tables, the database, all of those fun things, while also talking about why it's so important to have a nice, clean, reconciled balance sheet. And then lastly, we're project managers for change management. That's what we really do. We don't do tax, we don't do audit, we don't do IT. We help clients go through a change, which, holy cow, this year, there has been a lot of change. Here at Fourlane, we have a proven process that we take our customers through. We're going to talk a little bit about this process as part of this. So I usually don't include this slide, but we're going to talk a little bit about this process today to understand how best to get to what are we trying to report on from people. So we discover, do a deep dive in discovery, we right fit, make sure that we're in the right product, inform the customers on what it's going to fully take to get them there. We have obviously the vision implementation, which is completing the project. And then once you give people data, they tend to want more. So endless execution and to continue to build on what they have established already. Okay. Our formula for success. So some of the services that we offer, we're going to be talking about today, obviously, the custom reporting and setting up financial reporting. KPI advisory can go into that as well. But this is just some of the things that we do here at Fourlane to help make our clients successful. All right, today, I don't talk enough about that. I always get uncomfortable during that segment. I don't like talking about myself, and my business includes myself, I guess. So I like talking about what we're going to share today. So today, what we're going to cover, what is QuickBooks Advanced Reporting? Obviously, that is the most important part to take. You know, what is this thing that we're talking about? What is the QBAR sales process? It's not a software that you sell, but meaning the service, right? How do we talk to people about should they be taking advantage of this? And what does that process of coming up with a custom report design look like? Thought that would be a really effective takeaway for people who haven't done that yet. Then we're going to be talking about QuickBooks tables and fields, taking a look inside the product to really kind of dive in and see, you know, how do we get to this data? And then we have some example reports, and we're going to go through these reports at the end. Some of our template reports, again, the ones that we offer one of these for free when a customer renews or buys QuickBooks Enterprise through us. So these are the things that we're going to be going across today. The learning objectives: to first understand 2 QuickBooks tables, at least, and their fields for better custom report design. You're going to be hearing this a lot today about design, right? We have to understand the tables and fields in order to get to that report. And then secondly, describe 3 ways QuickBooks Advanced Reports can deliver data beyond standard QuickBooks reporting. Hopefully that sounds exciting to everybody. Well, actually, before I go onto that slide, let me go ahead and launch the first poll. So, how will you use the information that you are learning today? It's always important for me to understand too what's our goal? What are we trying to take away from today? I just get excited about getting people to think about what's possible. Think about, can we get there? All right, so we've got some people coming in here. So is it to train my clients? Is it for my own knowledge? to implement in my own business, or to create content of my own. I like hearing all of these things. And all of our polls are multiple choice today, so you can select multiple options if not one, just one applies to you. Make sure to think through it. Okay, looks like we are just at the minute mark here. Give people a couple more seconds if they need to vote, and go ahead and close. And then we'll go ahead and share the results here. So you can see that quite a few people are here to gain their own knowledge, which is great. I think that's wonderful. Continue to learn. That's what we always want to focus on here, but lots of good feedback there. Okay, let's go ahead and progress forward. So first of all, what we're going to talk about is what is QuickBooks Advanced Reporting. So this is a BI reporting tool, business intelligence reporting tool, that was released in the 14.0 and 15.0 editions of QuickBooks Enterprise. Okay, so QuickBooks Enterprise is the desktop product, not QuickBooks Online. A lot of people, though, do host QuickBooks Enterprise so that they have it, not on their local servers. But it's been around for a little while. People have taken some time, including us, right? We took some time to really adopt this program and really start to take advantage of what you can do with it. So it draws data from an existing QuickBooks database, QuickBooks Enterprise database, and allows a user to create interactive reports and dashboards with that data. Advanced reporting sits on top of your QuickBooks file so that running the report does not disrupt other users, right? So sometimes, you run a report in QuickBooks and somebody else says, Johnny is doing something, so you might be affected in your speed. That will not be happening because it functions outside of QuickBooks. So it doesn't disrupt others in the file. And actually, once you have the sync, once you have the sync in the file, you can close out of QuickBooks and just operate separately in the reporting dashboard. It's also a reporting tool that allows the user to customize existing template reports, or you can start reports from scratch. So again, it sits on top of QuickBooks, meaning it pulls data from the QuickBooks Enterprise database and pushes it into a separate database for us to do reporting. It is built using a reporting engine called QlikView, Q-L-I-K, View. The general architecture of advanced reporting is using the ODBC, Open Database Connectivity connection, to the QuickBooks Sybase database to pull that information. The advanced reporting reports are stored in the same file folder as the QuickBooks company file, right? So where the QBW file is stored, that's where your advanced reporting reports will be stored as well. Some tips around that. I know everybody likes understanding file extensions. We've always had people come and ask us, explain to us what these file extensions mean. So a .qvt file is basically the standard reports that come preset with QuickBooks Advanced Reporting, which we'll see some of those today. Just look, I'm not going to open them up, but I'll show you them. So every time somebody buys QuickBooks Enterprise, when they first load up Advanced Reporting, they get some reports standard with the product. Okay. A .qb or QVW file is the customized reports, and that's what we're going to be focused mostly on today. And what I will be pulling up today is some customized reports that we have made that are standard off the shelf that we share with our clients of Fourlane. And then you have a .qvr file, which is what most people will be seeing. That's the file when you export a report and send it off to somebody to use in their system. It's a .qvr file that they would expect to see. The nice thing about the QVR files is that it is the template. It's the bones of the report. It does not hold any data in that report, right? So then it can be used in multiple different company files, but not sharing data across company files. So there's no concern when emailing these .qvr reports. It's just a structure. Okay. So let's go ahead and start with the process to design a custom report. So first of all, sorry, I just had a question here, so let me go ahead and grab it real quick. So is this similar to the statement report writer in QuickBooks Desktop? So it's not, it is, except for the statement writer sits on top of Excel, right? And that's why some people, so it's a tool that's over Excel. This is a report writer in QlikView. So you can export it to Excel, right? Once you get the data to your look that you like, if you wanted to export it to Excel, you can. But it's its own report dashboard. So it's very similar to like a Crystal Reports, if anybody had dealt with Crystal Reports in the past. All right, process to design a custom report. Now this is a sales process, right, that I'm gonna kind of take you through, but it's also, it's based in the services industry, right? Because what we're doing is we're creating a custom report for the customer, which is a service that we provide. When a customer comes and asks to get access to data that they need in order to make business decisions, first we want to qualify the product that they need, and this requires a high level of discovery. We don't want to go too deep in the beginning with the exact, cells and fields and all these things. We want to go more at a high level. What are you trying to get to so that we can qualify the right product that they need? Maybe they don't need to go into advanced reporting. Maybe we can get to this report in QuickBooks all on its own. So one of the things that we do also during this discovery is that we tell clients from the very beginning, expect to repeat yourselves, right? You're going to repeat yourself several times through this process. That's not because we don't take great notes, but the thing is, when people want something custom, you have to make, they have a vision today, and then they'll have a couple nights to sleep on it, and then they may have a modified vision, right? And by repeating themselves multiple times, usually by the third or fourth time, we can get to the actual need, not just the ask. So right from the very beginning, right when we're talking about qualifying product, we tell them, you're going to give us some information today. You're going to repeat yourself again. When we do the deeper dive discovery, you're going to repeat yourself again when we do the kickoff. Right, so there's going to be multiple times where we're asking the same questions in order to make sure that we are going to deliver a good finished product to you. So qualifying product, when is QBAR appropriate? Let's start with when QuickBooks is enough and you don't need something like QBAR. So I'm going to go into QuickBooks for this one so that you guys, I'm a visual learner. Right, so looking at a PowerPoint is not super exciting for me. So you need so let's say you need a transaction report or you need a list report, but you don't need both combined. That's usually something we can get to inside of QuickBooks. As an example, if you have, a sales by item summary report, this is a report that is a subtotal of transactions. It is not a list report. It includes one list item, right, inventory parts, items, but it does not include details having to do with this particular list item, right? So if I go look at a POCO on my items list, these are list items. All these fields that are tied to this particular item are considered list items. On this report, however, they're totaling transactions, right? So how many of these aqua pool covers have we sold before? If I wanted to add a field from the list item, like a preferred vendor as an example, inside of QuickBooks, and I go to custom report, I can't add additional columns. So it's not one of those things that I can add to this report to show me an additional column that includes preferred vendor, because that is pulling from a transaction report and list reports. You tend not to be able to do that. I can filter, right, for preferred vendor, but then if I needed to see all my preferred vendors on one report, that's going to be a lot of reports. So anyway, if you think about it that way, if you need a transaction report only and all the data is on the transaction, generally we can get there in QuickBooks. If you need a list report and all the data is on the list, we can generally get there in QuickBooks natively. If you need both combined somehow, generally that's when we're talking about moving into something like a QuickBooks Advanced Reporting. Okay. Also, QuickBooks is enough. I'm saying a lot of generalities here because, you know, QuickBooks can be used in so many different ways. So there isn't one finite answer, right? So another way that QuickBooks can be enough is if we can add the field to the transaction itself, right? So if I can somehow, right, go into my sales transaction, not that you would want to do this necessarily, but I can add a custom field on the item itself called preferred vendor. And then I can add that custom field to the invoice template because you can add custom fields to the lines. So if I can get the information onto the transaction, then sometimes inside of QuickBooks, I can report on it and I don't have to go outside. Okay. So that's something to consider as well. Not always the prettiest result, right? Trying to throw the preferred vendor field not only into the preferred vendor field, but then also making sure it's in a custom field. It's not really the best result, but sometimes people just want to avoid going into a custom report. Okay, a good rule of thumb to test if QuickBooks will be enough, something that's pretty simple, is to go into custom transaction reports, custom transaction summary, or custom transaction detail reports, and look at what you can display columns by and what you can display rows by, because that's pretty much your limit. That's about all we can get to. So if I come in here, I can see, you know, day, week. So there's a date range area, balance sheet, summary balances, income statement, account list, customer type, vendor type, employee, right? So you can see all of the things that, you know, class, item type, which seems confusing to some people, but they mean like inventory item, non-inventory item, item detail, which would be by every item. So these are the different things that we can kind of subtotal by, but that's it, right? And notice that preferred vendor is not on this list. Okay, so that's one of those fields that maybe if we're trying to get to things by preferred vendor, maybe we need to add it in as a custom report. Okay. All right. When we've determined that QuickBooks is not enough, we've tried, right? In our process, we're always going to try to work QuickBooks natively first. The goal is never to take somebody into a custom report if they don't really need that custom report. So we've determined that we cannot get there easily within QuickBooks. Then we need to take a look at QBAR. So one of the biggest factors that people usually have is time. So if you have to run several reports and then export those several reports on a regular basis, I mean, QuickBooks has some ways to, you know, regulate, automate reports, but when it's taking too much time and we're having to do a lot of work outside of QuickBooks, then this is obviously a great opportunity for us to build a QuickBooks Advanced Reporting report. Secondly, if you cannot sort, total by, or filter by the information you're trying to pull out of a report, right? That is definitely something that we can do in QBAR. So when would that come in play? If you are on a profit and loss as an example, and so I can't get there in a regular profit and loss, but I can do a custom report summary, and I can say total my columns, total my rows by income statement, which is basically like running a profit and loss statement, and then total my columns by, I can get to customer type, but I can't get to that field job type, right? We have customers and we have jobs. So that's not something that I can total by inside of QuickBooks. So that's definitely obviously something that I would want to be able to do. I'd have to go into QuickBooks Advanced Reporting to do. Also, on some reports, we have details, and when we're running some detail reports, we have some details. Maybe we've added a custom field for weight as an example, and we want to have a total of the weight column. You can't add additional totals into reports inside of QuickBooks, so we would be doing that in Advanced Reporting. Multiple levels of roll-ups. So on a job profitability summary report, I can see all of the summaries of all my jobs, right? Profitability, actual costs, actual revenues. On a job profitability detail report, I can see for one job at a time, right? I can see for one job at a time, not all jobs, the totals by item, right? So I have the items down the left side, but what if I wanted to see all jobs and all items? I can't really get there inside of QuickBooks, right? So that multiple levels of subtotals. If you're thinking about a pivot table, you can, total by this field first and then total by that field second. Inside of QuickBooks, naturally, natively, we can't do that, which is why QuickBooks Advanced Reporting is so helpful. All right. Obviously, to get it to look a certain way, we have a lot of clients. We do a lot of conversion work. They convert from all over the place, Navision, Solomon. Everywhere. AS400. We've got all of the older systems, especially. In the newer systems, it doesn't tend to, the NetSuites and Intax and stuff like that. We don't tend to run into this as much because they have their own BI tools built in product. But some of these older systems, they have these reports and they're used to seeing them a certain way, and their project managers are used to seeing them a certain way, and so they just need it to look like that. I'm sure you guys have heard that before. So if we need a very particular look, great opportunity for an advanced reporting report. I know that some people have had some memorized reports issues in the past, meaning the memorized reports disappear, or you run it and it's just blank. Now, obviously, one of the things that you can do is go in here and add this to my icon bar so that it's yours as opposed to sharing it on the memorized reports list with everybody who has access to it. But that won't happen in the QuickBooks Advanced Reporting area. Plus, you can also export the reports and save them if you really wanted some extra protection, so you could reload them anytime. Okay. And then again, obviously, if you're pulling reports into Excel and having to format them and having to tie them together or build logic or create calculated columns or any of these things, definitely QuickBooks Advanced Reporting would be a great option because you just have to build the report template one time and you are set forever. So QuickBooks Advanced Reporting does have some limits, so we just like to make sure people are aware of that. It doesn't have access to budget information out of QuickBooks. That is not something that QuickBooks allows anybody to have access to. It's not open in the API. So there is some limitation there. However, you can put your budget information into QuickBooks Advanced Reporting, fill it in there, and still report against it, right? It just wouldn't, you can't pull, if you set up budgets inside of QuickBooks, into the Advanced Reporting module. Okay. Second limitation, the data has to be somewhere. That's my favorite one. I say to clients sometimes, where is this data? And they have to think about it because it's not in the system. So, how am I supposed to know? So the data has to be somewhere for us to be able to report on the data. Has to be there, has to exist. And then another limitation is QuickBooks Advanced Reporting does pull from one database and report on one QuickBooks database. If you're trying to consolidate data from multiple company files or from your CRM system and your web store and QuickBooks, this is not the reporting dashboard that we would be utilizing. But we do have solutions for that, right? It's just not inside of Advanced Reporting. Okay, now we've qualified that QBAR is the right product for this client's reporting needs. So next thing that we need to do, let me go back to my PowerPoint here, is we need to go into a deeper discovery at what they're trying to get to. Okay. Generally, when we go into this deeper discovery, this is with a QuickBooks Advanced Reporting project manager is what we have here, not necessarily with the programmer themselves, although that meeting is to come. So with the project manager, what we do is that we say, can you send us an example of the report you're wanting to create? That's the best way. If they have an example of the report already, or at least some chicken scratch of what they think the report's supposed to look like, that is extremely helpful. Next, we want to be sure to ask, what are you trying to solve for? What is this report going to be used for? What's the purpose? Okay. Understanding what the end goal is really helps us to get them to the right place. If the end goal doesn't make sense from an accounting perspective, right, from a system perspective, we're going to be pushing back on customers and saying, like, why do you need this data? What decisions are you making with this data? Because we just want to make sure that it's needed too, right? We don't want to send them down this pathway and it's something that is kind of frivolous. Can you send us the report in Excel so that we have the calculations? A lot of times they have built these reports in Excel and they've done all the logic for us. Well, that helps us to, that makes the development of a report much less work, right? Because they've already done a lot of the logic and the steps created there. How do you create the report now? Show us specific steps. Show us how you get to this report currently in your current system or in Excel. Then we go through, especially if we have the report, what's the information on the report? We go row by row, column by column, and tell us where does the data come from and what's the logic going into this data, into this result. Another good question to ask is, how long does it take you to create this report? This is very important because if it takes them 6 hours a week to create this report and we can save them 6 hours a week, I mean, that is a huge win all around for our team and for their team. How often are you running this report? Who will need access to this report? It's important to note that down too, because you have to look at user permissions and how are we going to distribute. Is this a cash or an accrual basis report? Now, this question seems kind of funny, but people don't always think in that way. Do you want this to be a cash transaction report based off of cash or based off of accruals? A lot of times clients go, this is the question that makes clients go back and forth. They go back and forth and they can't decide. What are the filters that you need on the report? Meaning, when you are looking at the report, what filters would you potentially need? So like when we're looking at a job profitability summary report as an example, maybe you want to filter by sales rep. So what filters would you like to see on the report? And you'll see some of those filters on the custom reports. Maybe you want to filter by customer type, right? What kinds of filters would you need to see? What are the subtotals? What would you like to be able to collapse or expand? Then we always ask again, have you exhausted QuickBooks? Are you sure you cannot do this in QuickBooks? We make sure to really nail that down because we want customers to feel very safe in that we're not trying to send them down a custom pathway when it's not needed. We also ask if they've ever attempted to do this in QuickBooks Advanced Reporting before and why did it fail? And then lastly, what's your tech setup? Where's your QuickBooks file located? Is it a hosted environment? Who is hosting this file? Right? That's also important to understand when we're setting up anything like this. So next, now this is I say this, it's kind of like pretty loosely, but very heavily, we really say customers need us to do a review of their file before we go into building a custom report. And why that's so important is, oh my gosh, like the other day, we had a client, they wanted us to do something custom for them. I expected, based off of our conversations, that they were using the customer and job list. I was wrong. When we went in to look at their file, they actually were setting up new income accounts. They did not use the customer job list. They would set up a new income account for every single customer and job that came across their plate. Now, I would have never expected that, but that's what happened. And you have to, until you get in and you see the way that they're set up and structured, right? We might go down a pathway and say, oh, we're going to build this based off a customer job. We're saying customer job, they're saying customer job, but we're talking two different languages. They were talking about accounts. I was talking about the customer job list. So we need to get in and look at the data. And then we need to make sure that if we're going to make modifications, like we're going to say to this customer, no, we're not going to create new accounts anymore. We're actually going to get rid of all these accounts and move it all to the customer list for you, that we make that change prior to building the custom report. Okay, so that's also very important. And then we already talked about how you go through and you ask the same questions over and over and over again. Again, it helps to let people sleep on their ideas, really get to what they're trying to achieve. So let me go ahead before, next we're going to start talking about tables and their fields. Let me go ahead and launch our second poll here. Which version of QuickBooks do you use in your business currently? While I do that, I'm going to take a look at some of these questions over here. So when do I think QuickBooks Online is going to catch up with Enterprise? I think they're trying. David. I'm not sure, though, to be honest. I know QuickBooks Online, sometimes when I do webinars around that product, it surprises me, some of the things that they have in product. Like, wow, they don't do that in desktop. But yeah, it's not quite there yet, but they're working on it. We actually have way more QuickBooks Online Advanced customers now than we ever have in the past. So internally, we've had to shift quite a bit of our processes, our SOPs, to make sure that we are encompassing both products, right? Okay, so this webinar specifically is about QuickBooks Enterprise, which is the desktop product. The QuickBooks Advanced Reporting sits on top of Enterprise. And then somebody asked, is it good to have Excel knowledge? For sure. Anytime you're talking about having to deal with databases and cells and tables, Excel knowledge is wonderful. It helps, right? But it's not the end all be all. It's more understanding tables and relations and things like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and share the results of the poll. So it looks like lots of QuickBooks Online users out there, lots of QuickBooks Enterprise users out there, which is fantastic. I am actually stunned that Enterprise and Online are head to head, which that just makes my heart go pitter patter. So that I love that. Usually we see more Pro and Premier, but Enterprise is really pushing ahead right now. So I love it. Okay, so let's go ahead and hide that. All right, so let's talk about some tables. Tables. So you'll see I tend to just open up all sorts of screens when I go through my demos because, again, I'm visual here. So again, we talked about this a little bit before, but the biggest question on reports is, where is the data coming from? Okay, where's the data? It's got to be somewhere in QuickBooks so that I can access that data. Where is it, right? And then, of course, we have to talk about the logic that's surrounding that data. But inside of QuickBooks, let's take a look at a bill. So a bill is a transaction type in QuickBooks. Okay. All transactions, meaning the debits and credits on transactions, they all flow through to a transaction table, one table for all transaction details. I'm sorry, all transaction information, right? Debit, credit, account, basically. Then they have separate tables for bill transaction details, okay? Or invoice transaction details. That's a separate table. Then they have list tables as well, right? And so each of those list tables has, so like a customer list, vendor list, employee list. That's actually all one table as far as the names go. But then they have the customer table, which contains all the details that you can fill out around a customer. Now, even on the customer list, there are still sub-lists, right? So you guys have seen some of these customer and vendor profile lists here, sales rep, customer type. These are all separate tables in the database. Okay. So when we're looking at a bill, let me just pull up a previous bill here. When I look at this transaction coming from the custom reporting side, what I want to do is say, what information is on this bill? So I have a vendor. Because I have a vendor on this bill, I can, in QuickBooks Advanced Reporting, relate to fields that I would find on a vendor, right? So I might not be able to add it to the transaction itself here, but because I have the vendor on the transaction, I can then link it to, like, let's say, tax ID, or I can link it to vendor type, right? Even though I can't have it show up on this transaction. So I pay attention when I'm looking at a transaction and I know that I have to do something related to this transaction. Can I, through lists, get to the details that I'm trying to get to? Okay. So I have vendor, that is tying back to a list that I can access. I have terms, that's tying back to a list. I have class, that's tying back to a list, right? Items, pull information on items. Along this top here, I've got customer vendors, or I'm sorry, customer jobs. I can tie back to a list. I can tie back to a class list at the header or the line level, right? Because this could be a different class up top here. I thought that would be really helpful, but different class up top than the bottom. Now, a couple years ago in QuickBooks, they added the ability to right-click on the top and customize columns. So I can add sales rep, which generally sits at the customer level, right? That's where the list that it applies to. But I can add sales rep to this bill. I can also add custom fields to this bill. Okay. So I don't need to, as far as QuickBooks Advanced Reporting, pull in custom fields. Those would be custom fields tied to the item, by the way, because it's on the line level. I don't need to pull in custom fields tied to the item, though, because in QuickBooks Advanced Reporting, I have the item here, and so I can pull from the items list any information. I don't have to put it on the transaction. If I were reporting on it inside of QuickBooks, somehow I would have to put it on the transaction in order to report on that field. Even that's somewhat limited. So looking at a bill, we have the header fields up top too. That's also important to note. And then the line fields. So if I had multiple lines on here, right, anything related to the header, what's the date of this bill, will be associated with the line. The date of 12/31/2025 will be associated with this line and with this line. However, on the line, if there are independent fields, things that don't match up, it's just going to relate to that one field. So it's going to say automatic pool systems for this line, installation class for this line. Okay. It's important to understand where's the data coming from. So we have transactions, we have lists that we've talked about so far. Now you also in QuickBooks have this thing called links. So you can see here, this is linked to purchase order number 3. Or if you go under the report section and we click on transaction history, that is also a link. So if this bill had a bill payment or it had a vendor credit associated with it or whatever it is, those links also are things that we can pull into reports in QuickBooks Advanced Reporting. Okay. Hopefully this is making sense, starting to come together here. So again, where's the data coming from? Is it coming from the link? Is it coming from the list? Is it coming from the header transaction, the line of the transaction? Where is the data coming from? Okay. All right, let's open up another transaction type. Let's open up sales orders. So in a sales order here, again, some of the fields that you have, many more fields, but you have customer, like that's going back to a list. We have the price level set up, right? Going back to a list. Somebody just said, are we going to see QBAR? Yes, I need to hurry up. So, but tables and lists, so that relates back to a list. The one thing I want to point out here too is that you can create a purchase order from a sales order for all allowed items. And when you create a purchase order, it does throw down into the memo section down here that this is related to the sales order, but there's actually not a link inside of QuickBooks for those two things to happen. So let me go ahead and launch poll number 3, and then I will show you how we can make this happen in QBAR. All right. Do you use any of the following attached services with QuickBooks? Hurry up and get to the fun stuff. But I think that once you see, when we create these reports, you have to understand where that data is coming from. You have to understand what QuickBooks is what's capable doing. And that's why we say this is also part 1 So we can go into part 2 on the 30th as well. All right. So do you use any of the following attached services with QuickBooks? T-Sheets, Assisted Payroll. Those 2 are QuickBooks products, Intuit products. Salesforce. We were just talking about that before we started this webinar. Bill.com. And then, no, I don't use any of the above products. All right. Let me go ahead and close out of this poll. 86% voted. Give you a couple more seconds here and close and share. So you can see here what your fellow audience members are using. Not a lot of people are using all these things. Mostly people seem to just be using QuickBooks. All right, so let's go into advanced reporting. So when you first open up QuickBooks Advanced Reporting, right, again, it sits on top of QuickBooks. You can see it's a separate little tab here. All of the ones that have a little S are starter reports, as they call it. I call it standard, but starter reports. Those will come with the product. The things that we're going to be looking at today are the ones that don't have an S. These are the templated reports that we have created for our customers to be able to use. So the first one that I want to pull up here is the sales order by item with purchase requirements. And that actually is open on my other screen. So on this report, go ahead and make it a little larger here. I did zoom in on the report. I tried to make my background a little bit larger so it's easier to see, but it did not look great. So hopefully you guys can see this well. So on this report, what we're looking at is sales orders by item with purchase requirements. So I just mentioned inside of QuickBooks, you cannot link sales orders to purchase orders. However, on our report here, we have created the link from sales orders to purchase orders using the customer job field. So is it on a sales order for this particular customer job? And then if yes, do we have purchase orders for that particular job for this item? Now on this report, we're totaling by item. So this 1500 PM, this is an item from our items list. Next, we're totaling by customer job, right? So which customer jobs have open sales orders for this particular item? And then over here, we have what are the open sales orders, okay, by number. Next, we pulled in what's our quantity on hand for this item. We have -5. Then we said how many are on sales order for this particular item for this job, not for all jobs, but for this job, so 2. Then we pull in how many are on open purchase orders for this job, right? So how many, we need 2, we haven't ordered any yet of this item for this job. So how many do we need to order? 7 to bring us back up, right? This is just a calculated column. To bring us back up above, we need to order a total of 7, okay? Now we don't have a subtotal in here because we didn't need it, but we can add subtotals in here to say how many do I need to order for all jobs. That also exists inside of QuickBooks. That's why we didn't have it on this one. So on this report, what's nice about it too is if I didn't want to total by item, I instead wanted to total by customer or job to tell me what are all the things that I need to order in order to fulfill this job. Inside of advanced reporting here, I would be able to just make a switch to promote the customer name up so that the item name comes secondary. It's a second subtotal. Now I'm looking by job, what items need to be ordered in order for me to have a purchase order for all open sales orders. So when did somebody use this? We have a customer that does custom landscaping design. They get an estimate, they put it in the system, they get approval from the customer, they flip it over to a sales order. Everything is custom, right? And that drives demand for the items needed to be ordered. On average, they have 80 to 100 jobs going at any given time. That's a lot of purchasing, and it's a lot of products, right? You can imagine in landscaping. So they had to figure out before, who have I bought for? Who have I not bought for? What do I need to buy for this job? When does it need to come in? So we added some additional customization to this base report to include date ranges as well. And so they were able to use this report, say, okay, what do I need to order for my jobs that are being completed next week? What's on a purchase order already, and what still needs to be ordered? Going into another report. So this one is I know we talked about cash and accrual before, but this is a customer sales and payment percentage. This is a cash and accrual report all built into one, which is always fun. I was gonna say, please don't not work right now. I've run it enough times. So what is this report showing us? This report is showing us by customer or by job, right? How much we have invoiced the job in total, how much we have, how much in total credit memos we've done against this job, any payment discounts that they've taken advantage of, what's the payment due or that they're eligible for, what's the payment due, right, total payment, and this is just a calculated column, this plus this plus this, and you can't do calculated columns on reports inside of QuickBooks. What payments have been made against this job, then a calculated column to round, right, about how much payment have they're at 90%. How much was their last invoice? When was their last invoice date? How much was their last payment? When was their last payment date? So cash and accrual based on the same report. We have a lot of clients in the construction space in particular that want to know this information on a single report, and you cannot get to this information on a single report inside of QuickBooks, which is why we built this template. So you give this report, usually they'll have a filter over here for project manager, which would be a custom field at the customer level, or they use sales rep. So usually we'll do a little customization for them to add so they can filter by project manager, shoot it out to Excel and spit it over to the project manager as needed, so they can know where they're at in their projects. Okay. This is another one of those ones that you can dream up and see. All right, sales orders with back orders. This report was created because we've had clients, obviously one of the things that QuickBooks has this all the time, they have people who, they say, how do I know what is truly on back order? What is on back order? I don't want to just know open sales order quantity. What is on back order, right? So we have things that are on back order in here. So we can total by item or we can total by customer. We've had people who want it totaled by customer so that they can send out to their customers on a weekly basis, hey, here is everything that is on back order. So that we would just make that flip, right, to make customer name promote it to be the total by. And then they would pop this into Excel, and they actually did it as a mail merge so they could to mass email out from the Excel spreadsheet to mass email out their customers to tell them this is what is on back order on your account currently, just to keep them informed. Okay, so it's pulling in customer, what item, what is the sales order number, what is the quantity, how many have been invoiced, meaning how many have been sent out, and we can change this instead of saying invoice, we can change this to be shipped, how many are back ordered, what's the email address tied to the customer, and then phone number as well if we needed to give them a call. Okay. All right, I'll go into one more today for you guys to see and to think about. So quantity on hand, this one we actually have two reports for. We have the quantity on hand to give the last utilization point basically by item. So on-hand inventory with last sold date. We also get this report, we have a customer report for customers as well, right? Customer report template. So a lot of people ask, I need to know when the last time, or tell me who has not bought within the last 6 months. And what was the, what did they buy before the last 6 months? So we have something that is similar to this, but in the customer realm as well. But on this one, we have item name. The reason I wanted to show this one especially is at year end, a lot of our customers will say, okay, I want to know the last point we utilized this item because I need to possibly get rid of some inventory off my books. I need to dispose of things. I need to change the value. So that's really important. So we have the item name here down the side. Of course, the description field pulling from the item itself. Then we have transactional information, pulling in the last invoice and bill date, total quantity on hand value, how many are currently on sales orders, what is the list of sales orders that they're on, so therefore how many are available, right? -5, -16, -21. Not a great example because of all these negatives in my sample files. Hopefully you don't see negatives on yours. What's on a purchase order and what's our next expected delivery date on that purchase order? So in a similar fashion, what we would see on the customer side is generally we'll have a filter for time period and the last purchase date. Show me anybody whose last purchase date was before 6/30/2020 so that I can reach out to these customers and figure out what's going on. So some pretty cool things there. Let me go ahead and launch our fourth poll here. Which type of reports do you create in Excel currently? While you're answering that, let me turn over to some of the questions. This hour always goes by so fast. I have more details to get through, but let me go ahead and answer some of the questions over here. Oh my gosh. So is QuickBooks Advanced Reporting a separate purchase? No, it comes with every version of QuickBooks Enterprise. So the silver, gold, platinum, or diamond versions of QuickBooks Enterprise come with the advanced reporting module. In the silver, gold, platinum, customers again who renew through us or purchase through us get one singular template for free included with their purchase from Fourlane. And then if you go with the diamond package, actually we're offering all of the advanced report templates for free for a short time period. Intuit is wanting us to run some promotions around that. Let's see. What do you recommend for reports that are too large to export to Excel or to print? So this would be a great option because then maybe you can narrow down the data, right? We can collapse some of the data. So I think that this would be a great option. Also, you can have multiple tables on the same dashboard. So I have one table here, but I could actually have multiple tables set up on one dashboard as well. Okay, so we go ahead and close that poll and share the results. And as I share these results here, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you guys at CPA Academy to wrap up. And then any additional questions, I'll make sure to get the answers over to you after the webinar. Okay. Oh, and one thing I just wanted to take a quick second to mention before they wrap it up here is that if you need a report, go ahead and put in chat, need report. We will reach out to you. If you are interested in getting one of the free reports, just type in there free report and we will reach out to you as well. But definitely look forward. And I see some of our customers on the list here asking questions. I appreciate you guys for supporting us as well. And if you guys have not gotten your free reports, please make sure to reach out and I will make sure that you guys get those. All right. Vaughn, you want to go ahead and do your closeout?
Sure, yeah, no, just making sure you got all of your great information in there because, of course, thank you, Marjorie. We really appreciate your sharing your expertise and your time with us. We really appreciate all this great content that you've brought to our attendees. And to our attendees, thank you for joining. We always appreciate that you're here with us as well. We have an evaluation form waiting for you in your inbox. So if you don't mind, jump on over to your email and give that feedback report a little love because we definitely welcome and appreciate everything that you give to us because we want to know what you think. We'll go ahead and process your CPE credits. We'll get that in your CPA Academy accounts within about 24 hours. You'll have a recording of this session in that account and a copy of your handouts. So again, thanks everybody for being here with us today. I think that's it. So we're just going to go ahead and say goodbye. Check out our schedule on cpaacademy.org because I hope to see you all on future webinars very soon. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.